Welcome to the Good Living Now podcast, where we talk to real people about real change leading to real health. I'm your host, Harold Leffall, and I know things may look a little different this week. Well, it's just me. It's just me and you talking about healing. I posted a video earlier this week um, talking about how challenging it is when you're on a healing journey and how oftentimes people don't really understand what you're going through. I mentioned that people see you and you look okay, but they don't know the truth of what you're going through, what you're experiencing. They don't know the pain that you're going through. They don't know the uncertainty that you feel. They don't know about the sleepless nights and the worry. And it can seem so overwhelming because you feel alone. I know that's how it was for me. When I got my diagnosis of cancer back in 2015, people saw me and I looked fine. I looked okay. But they didn't know how life altering that disease was and the side effects of what I went through after I ended up having surgery for the cancer. I went through every kind of adverse side effect you can think of, from incontinence to erectile dysfunction and the pain. The pain was unimaginable. The pain was so intense. There were times when I would go into my bathroom and I would close the door and try to muffle the sounds of the screams that I was holding in because of all the pain. I didn't want my son to hear me scream or hear me in agony. But I remember I would get so frustrated because I felt like my body had betrayed me. I had never experienced this type of pain. And it was like nothing was working right. Nothing was working right. And I remember I had this picture frame in my bathroom that I just got because it was nice, but the words on the picture frame had this message: "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." And I remember my bathroom almost became my sanctuary. Not only was it the place that I went to muffle uh, the sounds of my screams of pain, but it also became a place where I was learning to encourage myself to keep going. And one of the things I started doing, I started writing little notes on a little, those little yellow pads, and um, reminding myself of things that I wanted to be true. And I wrote, "I am enough. I'll get through this." And those were things I had to remind myself because, again, when people saw me, I looked okay. And nobody, even if I tried to explain what I was going through, could really understand what was happening. To not be able to control your bladder, to have to now be wearing Depends, nobody could understand that. Nobody could understand to be going when I was going through at 48, dealing with erectile dysfunction. Nobody could understand that. Nobody could understand the pain I was feeling. And I remember going to my doctors and telling them all of the things that I was going through. And they were like, "I'll give you a prescription for that." So they had a prescription for everything. But one of the things that I had learned is that every pill they had side effects. And I remember when I was younger, I was probably about 20. I remember my grandfather was visiting and he was in his 60s and he had this little suitcase. And in the suitcase, it was nothing but pills. He had a pill for everything. And so he had a pill to deal with the side effects for that pill. And he had so many pills that he would put them in this little contraption he had where he would put all his pills for Monday and Tuesday, that sort of thing. And I remember seeing that and thinking, I don't want that to be my reality. And so when the doctors were talking about giving me all those pills, that's what I remembered. And I thought, I don't want to go down that path. because what I knew was that those pills were not going to heal my body. Yeah, they may mask the pain or mask some of the symptoms, but they were not going to heal my body. And what I had learned from going through my cancer experience is that there are other ways to heal your body, true ways to heal your body. And it really started with what we're putting in our mouth. Because one of the things that I know now is that everything we put in our mouth is either fighting disease or feeding it. And I decided that I needed to start fueling my body with things that healed my body, things like fruits and vegetables, things that I did not eat growing up. We just didn't eat fruits and vegetables growing up. We ate cheese and hamburgers and hot dogs, all those things, cereal, sugar, potato chips, candy bars. Those were all the things I grew up eating. And I continued to eat them through adulthood. And I knew, because when I got my cancer diagnosis in 2015 and I started doing research, that there was a strong correlation between so many of the things that were a standard part of my diet and prostate cancer. And I knew I needed to stop eating those things if I wanted to get healed and to get healthy. And so I started changing the way I ate, but it wasn't easy. And I know for so many people who are going through a health crisis right now, you're wanting to change, but you don't know what to do, how to start. And sometimes you feel like you're starting and you feel like all your efforts are in vain. You're not seeing any changes. You're not seeing any improvement, and you want to give up. And what I want to encourage you to do is to keep going, because what I've learned is that healing is a process. I wish it happened overnight. I wish I could say my healing happened overnight. I wish I could say that the cancer went away overnight. I wish I could say that the pain went away overnight, that the erectile dysfunction and the incontinence went away overnight, but it didn't. It was a process. And it was a process of me relearning how to nourish my body, because for years I was putting all this poison in my body. So to think and to hope and to pray that just overnight that things were going to change that quickly was not realistic. And I wish I could say that I stopped eating all those things that I knew was harmful for my body immediately, but I didn't. Even after I did the research and I knew that there was a strong correlation between milk and meat and prostate cancer, I still continued to eat it. I started to cut back, but I was addicted to ice cream. I would eat a whole gallon of ice cream in one sitting. And I love cheese. I would just put cheese on a plate, throw it in the microwave, and just eat cheese by itself. I was addicted. And so even though I knew better, I was not doing better. And so I know sometimes when you're on your journey, you just want to be able to change overnight. And change and healing doesn't happen overnight most times. It's a process. And so for me, not only was it a process of me getting new information and making small changes, and I always say to people, start where you are with what you have. You don't need to go out and get any elaborate equipment or any type of special juicers or tools. You just need to start where you are with what you have and start making incremental changes. And for me, one of the changes happened when I started to juice, because one of the things I realized was that juice gives you so many nutrients in a little glass. You get all of these nutritional vitamins and minerals in a glass, and it's easy to consume. So I started juicing. And one of the things I did, I started juicing in the morning. It's one of the things that's so important, I think, particularly when you are dealing with being addicted to what we eat all the time, is dealing with those cravings. One of the things I discovered is the first thing you eat in the morning impacts the way you are going to feel through the day, but it's also going to affect your cravings. So if you eat something sweet in the morning, you eat a pancake, you're going to have cravings for something sweet or something unhealthy throughout the day. It's just the fact. But if you fuel your body with healthy nutrients, it's going to impact your cravings. And here's the thing that I've discovered on my journey. Oftentimes we think that we're hungry. And because, you feel hungry, but what happens is oftentimes we're eating all these foods that have no nutritional value. And what that hunger signal that you're feeling is for, not for food, but it's for nutrition. The purpose of food is to get the vitamins and minerals that our body needs. Well, when we're not getting that, if we're not eating foods that have nutritional value, then we can eat a whole plate of food and still feel hungry. We didn't eat 2,000 calories, but we still feel hungry. It's because there was no nutritional value in the food that we ate. And so for me, it was a process of eliminating and adding, eliminating things that I knew were unhealthy and adding things that I knew were healthy and healing for the body. And it was a process. I think the first thing I stopped eating was beef. Stop eating hamburgers and anything with beef in it. Then it was chicken. And the last two things that were really challenging for me to stop was eggs and cheese. I loved eggs and cheese. I loved scrambling eggs and putting cheese on. I'd put tons and tons of cheese. Those were the last things that I stopped eating. And when I stopped eating those things, I would incorporate, other things that were more healthy. And one of the things that was interesting is I discovered I started feeling different when I ate differently. There's something about when you fuel your body with healthy nutrition, you feel different. Not only do you feel differently in your body, you feel differently up here. I started having a lot more clarity. I started having less anxiety. When I was in college, when I was young, I used to have panic attacks. And I used to have a lot of anxiety. But I noticed that started to go away when I started eating healthy foods. And another thing I noticed is that when I would eat, as I was eating healthy, I didn't have cravings for that carrot cake that I used to love all the time. I didn't have cravings for fried chicken because now my body was being fueled with the nutrition that it needed. So those cravings started going away. And eventually I transitioned to being vegan. And vegan is not for everybody, but that is what works for me. And I started feeling better. And as I started feeling better, I started noticing that I wasn't having as much pain as I was having before. I started noticing that the incontinence wasn't as severe as it had been. And the erectile dysfunction was starting to get better. But another thing that I did was, not only was I changing what I was putting in my body, I was also focusing on what was going on here, because health and healing comes from not only what we put in our bodies, but also what's going on in our heads. When we're stressed out all the time and we are in worry and fear, that weakens our immune system. So that impedes the body's ability to heal. So if you are eating foods that are not healthy and you're stressed out, that creates the perfect environment for dis-ease. And so one of the things that I realized is that all of my life I had been in this state of fight or flight. Growing up the way I did, growing up in the hood, my dad was in and out of jail. I just remember always being anxious and nervous. And when you come from Black family, we don't talk about our fears. We don't talk about our troubles. But I had a lot of fear because my dad was abusive to my mom. And I remember hearing my dad beating my mom. And the next day, I was in elementary school, getting up. My mom has a black eye, getting up and having to go to school and acting like I didn't hear what I heard last night. I saw the black eye that my mother had, acting like I didn't experience trauma. And so I never felt safe as a kid. And when you don't address that type of trauma, you walk around in fear. You walk around with this sense of just being on edge. And that carried on until I got my cancer diagnosis. Always worried, always in fear. I remember talking to an elder. I was sharing with her some of my fears and concerns. And she said, baby, you just got worryation. That's what she called it, worryation. She said, you got to let that worryation go. And a lot of times that's what we do. We worry about things that we have no control over. We worry about things that may not even happen. But we are in this constant state of being on edge, waiting for the next thing to happen. And you can't heal like that. The body can't heal when you are just constantly on fear and flight mode. And I get it. We've all experienced trauma. We've all experienced setbacks and devastation and loss. We all have. But one of the things that I had to remind myself, that I want to remind you, even while you're going through a health challenge or going through any type of crisis, know this truth. You've never not made it. You've gone through some difficult times. You've had setbacks. You had loss before. And you survived. And you'll survive this. You'll get through this. Because the fact that you are watching me right now is an indication that you've never not made it. There was some times that you thought you wasn't going to make it, but you did. And you're here. And so I really want to encourage you, wherever you are on your journey, and don't allow other folks to make you feel some kind of way or try to speed up your healing. You're on your journey, and your journey is personal to you. Nobody can tell you, how to heal. Nobody can tell you what you should be doing. One of the things that was so important for me was doing my own research, not listening to all the experts. I know, you listen to some doctors and they tell you that there's no hope. There's no chance that you're going to get better. Well, God has the last say, and doctors only know what they know. They only know what they've been trained on. What was so interesting for me was when I was going through my whole cancer experience, I started doing research. And one of the things I discovered is that only 20% of medical schools require doctors to take a single class, one class in nutrition. So the fact is, most doctors don't really know about healing the body. They don't know the importance of nutrition to healing. They just don't know. And so they only can tell you what they have learned in school. And if they have not been taught information, a lot of times they'll disregard it. I remember when my doctors were trying to give me all these pills for the pain, for the erectile dysfunction, for the incontinence, and I refused to take them. And then later going back to the doctor, because when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I would have to go to the doctor every 6 months to get blood work. And my doctor was surprised at how well I was doing, given the fact that I didn't take any of the medications that he wanted to prescribe. And so what I learned through that process is that you have to trust in yourself, trust in the God of your understanding. You have to trust and listen and pay attention to your body, and know that if you're having pain in your body, that's just your body giving you feedback. You see, pain is information. Anytime you're having pain in your body, that's just your body giving you feedback. A lot of times we ignore that feedback. I remember when I was eating dairy all the time. Every time I would eat dairy, which was all the time, every time I would eat it, I would always have like cold-like symptoms. My throat would feel itchy, but I kept eating it. I was ignoring the information. My body was telling me, this ain't for you. This is not for you. And so pay attention to your body. Pay attention to how you feel when you eat certain things. You know, food that we eat shouldn't make us tired and lethargic. You know, it should make us feel energized. It should make us feel a sense of clarity. And so I want to just encourage you, because people ask me all the time, you know, how do you start? How do I start on my healing journey? Well, it's real simple. You just start. You just start. Don't try to eliminate everything overnight. Don't try to do that. Just start making small incremental changes and start getting new information. Start researching. Look at labels. It's amazing to me how toxic so many of the products that are in our grocery stores are. I didn't know that. A lot of the things that I was eating on a regular basis, I was so surprised to find is banned in other countries. They have ingredients in them that are known to have cancer causing ingredients or properties, but they're in the grocery store. You would think that it was safe, but a lot of it isn't. I was surprised to find that things like cereals have an ingredient called PhD, which is a BHT, which is a preservative that is known to cause cancer, but yet it's in our cereal. That it just didn't make any sense to me. And we know that so many things that are in packages, because what happens is when they put things in packages, they want them to have a longer shelf life so that they can sell. And they put all these chemicals and colorings in those products that are harmful to our bodies. So it's no wonder why, you know, cancer rates are as high as they are. I was reading a study that said that 1 in 3 people will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime. 1 in 3 people will be diagnosed with cancer. That's crazy. That's and we have in the United States one of the highest cancer rates. And when you look at what's in our food, you see the correlation. And so it's important that we educate ourselves. It's important that we make a commitment to ourselves to do what we can to help our bodies heal. And healing, you want to create an environment in your body, a body that doesn't have a whole bunch of stress and a whole bunch of toxins, so you can allow your body to do what the body is designed to do. The body is designed to heal. It's designed to heal, but we have to create the right environment for the body to do what it's designed to do. And so as I sit here today, you know, 9 years ago, it'll be 9 years in August, when I got my cancer diagnosis. And I've been cancer free for 8 years now. And here's what I know. I know that change is possible. And I know that healing is possible. But there's work that we also have to do. There are changes that we have to make. And it's not going to be easy. And sometimes you're going to want to give up. And sometimes you're going to get frustrated. But don't give up on you. As my grandmother always would say, she said, no matter what happens to you, no matter how many times you fall, you got to keep on keeping on. And so I just wanted to come on today just to remind you of that healing is possible. It's possible, but you got to keep on keeping on. You got to make some changes. You got to make some changes. We want you here. We want you here. We want you whole, and we want you healed. So that's all I wanted to come on and to say to you today. Just keep on keeping on. Your change is possible, and healing is possible. You're going to be all right. God got you.